You can see them.
By the way, county council, they often drink
Okay, yeah.
for a coffee person. I'm not. I don't drink coffee, so
Okay,
my
so
water bottle's fine. Okay, we're live.
We are live now, so.
Thank you.
Here, I signed on so early, my coffee's cold already.
Okay, we are live now, so I'd like to open this meeting and welcome everyone. And in particular, I'd like to welcome Paul Shipway. Paul is our new CAO, and maybe Whit, you could put the picture on Paul for the moment. Anyway, Paul began January the 5th here as our new CAO, and we are delighted to have him and looking forward to working with him. And welcome to Central Elgin, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Hearing and seeing none. Read the first motion concerning the minutes.
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Kravitz, seconded by Councillor Fair, that the minutes of the regular planning meeting of council dated Monday, December the 14th, 2020 be adopted.
Any questions or concerns? If not, would you take the vote?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne.
What she's got on.
Right, doesn't look like she's on yet. Councillor Rowe
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. We have two delegations tonight, and Mr. Perrin, is Mr. Kovacs on or available?
Yes.
Okay, there he is. Okay, Mr. Kovacs, would you like to go ahead? You have 10 minutes in which to present your case, whatever you'd like to say about Linda Street.
Absolutely. Thank you. And good evening, Mayor Martin, Deputy Mayor Marks, and councilors. My name is Jamie Kovacs. I live at 7 North Valerie Street. And before I proceed, I do want to thank council for letting me have the opportunity to speak tonight. And I do want to give a special shout out and thank you to Mayor Martin for returning calls so quickly and being so responsive. My wife and I live at, like I mentioned, 7 North Valerie Street. I'm not sure if council is aware, but we actually own the ravine property on the north side of Linda Street as well. So Linda Street serves as basically a divider. I'm here tonight to speak about Linda Street and council's decision to keep it open as a single lane 3.5 meter wide road. I'm not here to challenge any numbers that were presented. I really only wanted to share our thoughts, but not just our thoughts, our neighbors' thoughts as well, who live alongside Linda Street and whose properties actually come in contact with it. We feel all our opinions were really not heard in time as the decision seemed a bit rushed, and it was based mainly on pressure from the neighbors that don't live on or use the street. I know myself, I was told a few times directly that no decisions would be made until spring, as they wanted to study the options over the winter and come up with the best decision. I was also emailed by the engineering department and told that directly they would be reviewing the street use over the winter. They'll be providing council with 3 or 4 options, and a final decision would be made by council. I sent an email on November 1st with a proposal to retire Linda Street and an offer to purchase the lands. Yet sadly, this option was actually never brought before council. And from what I hear, the email was never forwarded to my councillor as promised. I'm representing a few of the neighbors as well. The owners of 6 North Valerie Street. They're on the west end of Linda. They touched the very end of it. They did not receive an initial letter and actually had no idea what was going on until I spoke to them one day. I gave them our letter and I gave them the quote from the engineering department that they would be reviewing it over the winter and there'd be no rushing. So there was no need for panic. Our neighbor behind us, whose property actually runs parallel to Linda Street as well, phoned after receiving the initial letter, and the engineer told her that they would be looking at a permanent solution over the winter and that there was no rush to complete as it needed to be done right. When she phoned a second time after she heard of the decision on November 23rd, which winter was still a month away, she was told that they needed to actually hurry and get the numbers in before the budget meeting. 11 North Valerie, which touches our house, they were told that there would be no rush to come up with an answer as they wanted it done right. The last time they did this, it was done incorrectly, and that no decision would be made until spring. The decision letter seems to imply that a decision was based on pressure from residents. We know for a fact residents that live along the side of the road and directly impacted by it through talking to them didn't have the time to speak up. The people that spoke up are people that don't actually need access to Linda Street and don't use it to get into their homes for any purpose. All the residents whose home touched Linda Street were all told no decision would be made till spring. The letter that went out to council said the majority of respondents expressed a desire to maintain some form of access through Linda Street for pedestrian traffic. Again, the people that wanted the road closed had all been told directly there'd be no rush, so they didn't rush in to get an answer. We watched your meeting on Facebook in regards to the Linda Street decision, and we were in agreement with most of the councillors as it was debated. There was a lot of interest in closing it initially, as there are much heavier traveled roads in central Elgin that desperately need taxpayer money and repair. Deputy Mayor Marks at one point just suggested, shut it down. You're really not going to inconvenience anyone. He's right. There's not one single resident that lives in this neighborhood that needs that road to access their homes or to get in and out of the subdivision. There's no homes on that road, and there never will be. The ravine is very steep and unsafe. Councillor Rowe had mentioned there are busier roads in central Elgin that need solutions. For instance, Jameson and Orchard, they've been requesting maintenance for a couple of years now, much busier roads. A couple of options were presented, but the primary focus of Jeff and his department were to keep some type of road open so trucks could keep rolling. As some of you know, there are dead ends in central Elgin, Port Stanley, that garbage trucks, snow plows, and emergency equipment are able to navigate. Jeff also commented he didn't think he had a legal obligation to even provide a turnaround, that he could actually have put a dead end in. The fact several neighbors were told that no decision would be made till spring just made us not want to rush, that central Elgin didn't want to rush it and that they were going to study it over the winter. Sounded great to myself, my wife, and our neighbors. I'm in business, and I know that rushing a decision usually means it's an outcome riddled with future costs and mistakes. Instead, a decision was rushed, and it was pushed in just over a month from the day that the original letter went out to the council meeting on November 23rd. The original letter went out October 13th. What we're asking for is council to reconsider the decision and retire Linda Street. Put the hammerhead in and never spend taxpayer money again on such a non-essential road. By putting the hammerhead in, this will also slow traffic, making this neighborhood safer. If money is the determining factor here, which is what we heard on November 23rd, meaning then retire the street, sell the land, and use those funds to help pay for the turnaround. No future liabilities, no ongoing maintenance, and most of all, never revisiting this issue again. Again, I'm not challenging the cost to build, but I was wondering if anyone had thought of ongoing costs and the future for such an unused road. No need, Tyler suggested he had to put a sign in for the new road about yielding, and there would have to be a new bylaw created for that sign. There'd be no need for that if it was retired. No need for future maintenance. If they go the 3.5 meter road, there was no mention that that's going to leave about an 8 foot to 10 foot path of grass, 100 meters long. That's going to have to be cut and maintained. It's a sharp corner that would leave a bit of a blind side if it's not trimmed. Sorry, guys. People on the road, cars come around that blind corner. If there's children on the bicycles, which there are in this neighborhood because it is so quiet, there's no room for them to move aside. What happens when two cars come along that road? Because there is a blind side at either corner. You can't see who's entering that road. If there is a road, we will need guardrails either way. He had mentioned he only needed them for the hammerhead. There's two sharp turns. We've been here six years, almost 7, and one car has already gone into the ravine at a high rate of speed, almost killing the occupant. There was another vehicle had gone into the ravine several years prior to that. Central Elgin garbage trucks, UPS, FedEx, other vehicles stop frequently along the side of our house on Linda Street. And my wife and I have unfortunately seen many people relieving themselves at the side of the road in the ravine. There's daily dumping of trash. We've had the police involved in prescription pills, needles, beer cans, dog feces, all thrown in the ravine constantly. We've had cars parked overnight and there's no streetlights on that road. We've had to call the police about a car that was left abandoned in the middle of the road. Kids going in and out of the ravine from the road entry, future injury and lawsuits. Will you be repaving the road in 15 to 20 years? More maintenance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. After all, even the smaller road, which didn't get talked about, will still be less than 15 feet from that steep ravine. In closing, 20 years ago, someone rushed Linda Street and put down an unsafe road on an unstable base within inches of the ravine. Here we are again about to spend taxpayers' money on what really is not a necessary road. We're asking for a bit more time for Central Elgin to study it and ensure the decision today won't pop up again in 10 to 20 years as a costly mistake. I'm here with the hopes and the neighbors that council will revisit option 2 of building this 3.5 meter elevated road with a drainage ditch and instead reconsider the hammerhead option, retiring Linda Street and allowing us to purchase it and keep our neighborhood quiet and peaceful with no future costs, future liabilities, or Central Elgin to worry about such a non-essential road. And again, I really do want to thank you for your time because you already have put a decision forward. So I do appreciate it. I don't know if anybody had any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kovacs. If council were to reconsider this, they have to realize that it needs a 2/3 majority of council. Any decision we make requires a 2/3 majority because this was, I think we had one dissenting vote, but there's a 2/3 majority of those who voted for this have to be willing to reconsider it if it's to be reconsidered. Does anyone have any questions they wish to ask Mr. Kovacs?
Not a question to Mr. Kovac, but I thought that when we had a ruling on the Roberts rules, when we were talking about another issue, that it was clarified that it doesn't require 2/3, it just requires more than 50%. I may be wrong on that, but I thought that's what Mr. Leach mentioned.
Okay, yes, Mr. Shipway saying, I had always been told 2/3, so he said more than 50%. Yeah. So that would still require 4 of the 7. Any questions or anybody have anything more they wish to say? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kovacs. Council may wish to discuss it later. I don't know, but at the moment, no one has anything else to say or any questions for you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Now we have a second delegation, and this is Kathie Gonder, owner of 234 Edward Street in Port Stanley, concerning the Edward Street access to Prospect Street. So there's Kathie coming in now. If you could unmute yourself, Kathie, it's your turn to present to us your concerns with Edward Street and the access to Prospect.
Okay, thanks Mayor Martin and councillors for allowing me to speak tonight. I just wanted to update the council on the Edward Street stairway. We have moved ahead with the help of a lawyer and now have a survey that shows the site proposal between Edward and Prospect Street. At the moment, we still need a court application and reference plan. And our lawyer has reached out to your lawyer, the municipal lawyer. We just noticed, someone brought it to our attention that we weren't on the 2021 budget. And that was what was concerning us because although you don't own the piece of land right now for the stairs, you know, we're hoping that by June or something that you will own it. And the stairs could start. So I guess what I'm asking is that if this happens in the year 2021, that you would consider, starting the stairs, because at the moment, all access to Little Beach is gone, except if you drive around, and you can't, the only place to get out is up Curry Boulevard, and it's getting very busy. I was on it the other day, and with everyone out walking and all the new subdivisions, honestly, there was about 5 groups going up the hill, and it's kind of dangerous, and especially with young children, etc. So I think at least having a walkway and a way to get to the village from Orchard Beach other than Curry should be a consideration. Anyhow, so that is why I'm here, is to just make sure that you're aware that we're trying our best to get it into the hands of municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And I did forward the photos that you sent me of the stairs that were there in the 80s to all of council. You had sent those to me, and so I did forward them to them, because that's after my time. When I was there, it was a trail up the hill.
Yeah, well, that was hard to see on that picture unless you kind of blew it up on your cell phone or whatever.
Yes, I blew it up on my iPad and I could see it just fine. But council has already agreed that we definitely will, once you acquire this land and that it becomes part of the under municipal ownership, that we definitely will put in a stairway up there. But I spoke with Mr. Brooks today, and one of the things we feel that there probably should be a consultant brought in to give us what he felt was the best way to build those stairs, and give us an estimate then of types of costs that it would incur. Because we don't own it at the moment, we haven't put it specifically in the capital budget. And there is some leeway, but we really can't make any movement on this until we actually have the land in our ownership. And I do know that your lawyer, Ms. Dale, has said that she hopes to have it done in 2021. She's pretty certain she can do that, but she didn't tell me how far into 2021. So does anyone else have any questions or comments about this Edward Street access that you'd like to make to Kathy?
Mayor Martin, do we have an estimate on the cost?
No, we don't, because it depends when, at least Mr. Brooks can answer that, but we really don't, we haven't done any consulting. We don't know exactly what the steps should look like. We know there'll probably have to be at least 1 or 2 landings going up for people to pause at, such as we do have. If you go down Prospect Street and go down the stairs there to Little Beach, you will see it's a wooden staircase with landings. So I'm not certain, Mr. Brooks isn't sure. We'd have to have a geotechnical engineer, to make sure that we can put this up safely, because it will be municipal property. Mr. Brooks, did you wish to speak to Deputy Mayor Marks?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Martin and I spoke this afternoon. Once the land is brought over to the municipality, I would suggest that we engage a consultant to take a look at some different options, whether that be steel or timber construction of the stairs, as well as give us some advice on some geotechnical issues along the hillside there. It's hard to come up with an estimate without the help of a consultant here at this point.
Any other questions? Councillor Rowe or Wynn, sorry. It says Chris McDonough, so you're going to have to unmute yourself there, Fiona.
Someone else's laptop now. I'm sorry for my lateness, technical issues. I don't have a question. I just want to say, having recently relocated to the area, I can very much agree that getting out of Orchard Beach is a difficult thing to do on foot. can say that it would be nice to see something, because it is a dangerous walk going up and down that hill. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Anything you wish to ask or express? If not, thank you very much, Kathy, for your for presenting to us, and we certainly look forward to hearing when we have possession of this, because that we can make our next move at that point.
All right. Well, thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Now we're moving to correspondence requiring action. Did you have a motion?
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Wynne, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin approve Central Elgin's apportionment of the 2021 Catfish Creek Conservation Authority levy in the amount of $96,553.21, including the special planning levy.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, would you call the vote?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne.
She's put her hand up.
Yes.
Oh, she's trying to unmute.
Yes,
You.
sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. I have correspondence for information. Before Diane reads the motion to take them all, is there anyone that anyone would like to have withdrawn and considered separately?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I don't know if item 3, I don't know if I need to have it separate, but I wonder if there is a question there. I wonder if staff would give us an explanation. Mr. and Mrs. Marr, their opinion from my reading the correspondence, I think they're paying too much. I'd like to hear staff's justification, please, if that's possible.
Mr. Perrin, would you, I assume, would be the one to respond to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in November of 2019, this council had a report in front of you with respect to cost sharing on the sanitary sewers for the new development. At that point in time, direction was given by council that the cost for the sanitary sewer installation would be based on a service by service basis. So the total cost divided by the number of services, and that's what was done. So an existing resident is paying the exact same amount for a connection as a connection in the new development. That's based on past practice. There's been a number of projects that this municipality has undertaken, and the precedent was set previously by those projects. The actual cost per service was split, was a result of the total cost split by the number of services. And that was what was approved by council back in November when you had the report put in front of you with the total cost and the number of services. So the bylaw reflects that. I believe the concern after talking with Mr. Marr is that the development property should be paying more. I'm not sure what the justification he has for that, but I can state that a number of the existing properties on Hill and High and Larry Street have already connected. So I would assume that they thought that the sanitary service was a benefit to them. I would also note that the sanitary septic systems that are in the area on existing dwellings are in excess of 30 years old. They're the original septic systems, and some of which actually failed as the sanitary sewers were going in. So we know that they were at the end of their useful life, and they're paying, the existing residents are paying the same as what the new development lots are.
Mr. Perrin, that was already agreed to with the development at the time. So, I mean, we couldn't go back and renegotiate that because the only other way to pay for that would be the municipality paying part of it. Correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. So council made the agreement ratified what they were prepared to do back in November of 2019. That was reflected in the development agreement that was executed between the municipality and the developer. So we followed that same practice that was agreed to. So you are correct. If council chose to reduce the cost to the existing residents, the municipality is still obligated to pay our proportionate share. So that difference would have to be funded from the water and wastewater rates as a capital project.
Madam Mayor?
Councillor Kravitz, you wish to speak, and then Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a question about that as well. The question I had, if the sanitary sewer that was put in that area, that was to service the subdivision, what is the sizing of that sewer? And if we only service the Hill, Larry, and High Streets ourselves, would we have had to change the size of the sewer, or is a larger sewer cost because of the development? Is that driving it up? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Kravitz, the minimum diameter sanitary sewer that the municipality standard, as well as many other municipal standards, is 200 millimeter diameter, 8-inch. That's the smallest sanitary sewer we will put in. And that sewer that was installed on Larry Street, Hill and High Street is a 200 millimeter diameter. So regardless of the development, if Hill, High, and Larry Street were serviced on their own without any development, it would still be a 200 millimeter diameter sewer. So there was no increased cost for the actual sanitary sewer to accommodate the development.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge, I guess, I don't know what the timing was between when the letter was received from Mr. Moore and the final numbers, but there actually was a $60,000 decrease from the original estimate back in November. It used to be $263,000 and today it's $206,000. So at least that's something, and it's going in the right direction.
Any other questions or comments? If not, would you read the motion, Diane, please?
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Wynne, that correspondence items number 1 through number 3 inclusive be received as information and filed.
To call the vote?
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Thank you. Now going to reports, and the Central Elgin Planning Office is our first report. I don't believe we have anyone from the Planning Office on the line or in the meeting, do we, Mr. Perrin?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay, so if there are questions, we'll have to refer back to that. So would you read the first motion, Mrs. Wilson?
Yes, Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that report CEP 0121 be received as information, and that council has no objections to 0421. Waverly Kielstra, 89 Bodkin Street, subject to the following recommended conditions. The severed land be merged in title with the abutting lot to the west, 87 Bodkin Street, that subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the subject lands. The solicitor for the applicant is to provide an undertaking whereby they inform the committee in writing that the lands are being conveyed to an abutting property owner and thus a merger of title will take place, which merger shall include all interests held inclusive or mortgagee's interest. A drainage reassessment be done if necessary at the owner's expense, and the municipality of Central Elgin be provided with a copy of the reference plan.
Any questions on this one? Councillor Fair and then Councillor Rowe.
My only question was, when I drive by there, I see there are a lot of trees there. I don't know if there are any rules against, because if they build, they're going to have to cut down most of those trees, I would think. I'm just wondering if we could find out if there are any rules against cutting those trees down, because some of them are pretty close to the street.
Mr. Perrin, would you wish to respond to that?
Yeah, I can. So there's no bylaws in this area prohibiting tree cutting. I would acknowledge that this is a boundary adjustment of 1.5 meters to take from one lot to convey to the other. So I don't believe there's any other new development that's being proposed. It's just a straight boundary adjustment.
Councillor Rowe?
I was just, since we were on the development charges topic earlier, I was just curious whether there would be development charges on this property as well if they're building a new home on it.
I think Mr. Perrin said they're not building a new home, so there wouldn't be development charges. Is that correct, Mr. Perrin?
That's correct. If it's a boundary adjustment, it's just a straight conveyance of land. The development charges are initiated when there's a building permit application received.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, would you call the vote, please, Diane?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe.
Before I answer, could I just read what's in the note? It says the severed parcel will be merged with 87 Bodkin Street and used to construct one new single detached residential dwelling. Well, I'm a little confused now.
There's no building permit issued, sorry. When the building permit issues, that's when the development charges kick in, I believe. Or Mr. Perrin, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Perrin.
This application is for a boundary adjustment. If they come forward with a building permit that is within the confines of the development charges bylaw, then yes, they will be required to pay development charges. But
okay, that's all I was looking for.
Yeah,
but it does say that they were going to.
We definitely collect development charges when a building permit is required.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Mayor Martin,
Yes.
the resolution carries.
Thank you. Now CEP 0321, the draft plan of subdivision approval for the Jacqueline Farm Phase 4. Would you like to read the motion?
Certainly, Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Kravitz, that report CEP 0321 be received, and further that Council approve the attached municipal draft plan conditions to be forwarded to the Manager of Planning for the County of Elgin with a request that said conditions be included in the county's decision on the proposed draft plan of subdivision being Prespa Construction Limited, Jacqueline Farm Phase 4.
Any questions? Seeing none, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. Now we're going to Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, first report on Port Stanley Harbor Tours. To read the motion?
Certainly. The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the Council of the Municipality of Central Elgin accepts the proposal from Port Stanley Harbor Tours to operate a water vessel-based tour of the Port Stanley Harbor area during the 2021 beach season, subject to the following conditions. The tours must comply with the applicable COVID-19 restrictions and guidelines mandated by the Province of Ontario and Southwest Public Health. An insurance policy in the amount of $5 million per occurrence, naming the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin as co-insured and held harmless, be provided to the municipality, and all dockage be subject to the applicable municipal user fee schedule as per report ICS 0121 Port Stanley Harbor Tours.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just a comment more so, and just asking a few questions this afternoon about this. Mr. Brooks had indicated that it is possible, should council agree, to add a condition in there to just recognize the sign bylaw for the municipality, just the way that they had described the signage that they were looking for there. It sounded quite extensive, so I just want to make sure that it's still going to be within the sign bylaw. So if that condition could be added, that would be great.
I think that they have to adhere to the
I
sign
recognize
bylaw.
that, but the way it was written, it was just a little bit more.
Okay. Is that okay? Councillor Kravitz, yes?
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish
I
with
just
that.
wonder, is that acceptable that we put that in, that they adhere to the sign bylaw?
Madam Mayor,
Wilson?
yeah, Madam Mayor, the mover is Councillor Fair and the seconder is Councillor Rowe. If they would recognize the friendly amendment to the main motion.
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
Councillor Kravitz.
No, I just wanted to say it's something seemed exciting, and new business in the area is always exciting. I wish them luck. Unfortunately, with COVID, I think they're going to have a tough time this year, but perhaps they'll, stay around for another year after and try it a following year after COVID. So I wish them luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's a great idea, and it will be interesting to see how it goes. Who knows where we'll be this summer? COVID. You've heard the motion. I'll just give Mrs. Wilson a chance to finish writing the addition, and she can read just the addition.
Madam Mayor, I've added the further bullet and that the applicant be in compliance with any municipal requirements under the signage bylaw, municipal signage bylaw.
Is that acceptable? Councillor Fair, Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Okay. Would you call the vote then?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes,
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to Turvey Park Playground Structure. Mr. Brooks, do you want to speak to this at all first before we discuss it?
I really have nothing further to add to the report. We're looking for some direction on one of two locations to put the playground equipment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. Questions?
Mayor Martin,
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Marks.
I was on site this afternoon around 4 o'clock, and I was struck at how nice it is out there. If we can, the staff and the people have such a nice area. If we get these young kids, whoever they are, that are causing the trouble, the possibilities are endless out there. I actually took a fair walk out there around through the pass. If I had a preference, and I've been there several times, it was the first time I was sort of on the side where the multi-use basketball part is. If I had a preference, I'd like to see the playground go, let me get my directions, west of that. There's a triangle shape there, and it's probably the furthest spot away from houses. I don't know what, Jeff, you think of that, but if I was a resident, just from looking at it, I'm not the staff, so I'm not telling you what to do, but that would be my suggestion. I don't know what you think of that. It seems like we've had issues with the house closest on the other side of the skate park, and I thought that would perhaps bring some traffic away from that.
Mr. Brooks, would you like to respond to that?
For you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Marks. I believe the area you're speaking to is just west of the multi-use court.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So
The triangle area.
Yeah, there's somewhat of a triangular area there. Now, the intent of that area was to be a play area where kids could play soccer, they could play baseball, play catch, that sort of thing. It's kind of a multi-use play area. So that's the intent of that area. If the playground equipment is placed there, then that area is lost. And I guess one concern that I have is potentially kids could take up those types of activities where the playground equipment was originally proposed in the triangular area just north of the skate park. And it could become even more of a nuisance for those neighbors having balls or balls kicked or thrown into their yards. So that would be my one concern there, the loss of the intended use as well as potential nuisance for the neighbors.
Councillor Wynne, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin. I would agree that I like where the playground or play pod is put, just because I think you're going to be having younger children using that. And as a parent, I would want that closer to my home, to the home area for viewing, as opposed to a further away. So I like the play pod where it is, just thinking back to my own kids at that age. Thank you.
This playground equipment is geared for what, 5 to 12-year-olds? Is that my understanding, Mr. Brooks?
That's correct.
Mayor Martin,
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Marks.
have we consulted with the residents? Because I've been told repeatedly their wish is not to have it close to the houses. And I'm just bringing that to the rest of councils that, so they're aware of that. I think probably Councillor Fair, maybe he can weigh in here too, but I think that's been expressed to you as well.
Yes, that's correct.
Have all the councillors been out there and taken a good hard look at it?
I don't know about all of them. We held several meetings there, Deputy Mayor Marks, when we were first proposing this. And we asked, like, we had a public meeting where we had all different elements to go in the park, and the residents, now that wasn't the new homeowners that are up beside it, because they bought since that was put in.
That's what they keep saying, because they weren't aware. They're the ones putting up with it. That was an empty field there at the time.
But they should have, when they were purchasing it, had some idea that there was a park going there. I don't know, or should have checked it out. But yeah, the other people had chosen that location, and they chose what they wanted in that location. The one thing that we are proposing, and I know Mr. Perrin, he can speak here to this, is a board fence going around too, which would certainly help protect the houses. But Mr. Perrin?
So I am I guess the old dog here, and I have all the history because I've been involved in this project from the start. So in 2014, the municipality actually took that 1.58 acres or 1.59 acres from the developer at the time for their parkland dedication, because the concerns that we had heard from, I'm going to say 1998 through until 2014, is that there was no flat area for kids to play, to throw a ball around or to kick a ball around, and they required more amenities. So we took the parkland, that land there specifically, and it was identified on the plan of subdivision that created that subdivision. So it's always has been intended as a park since 2014. Council of the day went through a fairly rigorous consultation process. We were out on site on 2 different occasions, one to get feedback from the residents to help us understand what type of amenities that they would like to see in the park. And then after that, that information was given to a landscape architect who came up with 3 options that the council of the day looked at and reviewed and picked the preferred option. That was then taken back out on site, and another public open house on site with the residents in the subdivision and that preferred option was adopted by them, or they gave comments and it was tweaked slightly. And then it took some time to construct the park because it's a very expensive park. It's probably the nicest park that you'll see in any subdivision anywhere in Central Elgin and possibly even in St. Thomas. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have put a sign up in the park that showed the preferred option that was adopted by council after consultation with the residents. So that area, it never was just an open field. It always was intended to be a park, and it took some time to get some development there. The multi-purpose pad was put in place prior to a number of the homes that are in the area. The skate park was commenced in 2020 with Mr. Brooks's forces, or actually late 2019. There was a number of other amenities that were put in that area, like walking trails, asphalt walking trails that go back as far as 2018, 2019. So it always has been identified as park, and over time the amenities have been constructed. So what is being proposed now is the plan that was adopted back in 2015, 2016. It is unfortunate that maybe people didn't understand what was to be beside them, and that the developer did not make that known to people when they moved in there in 2020 or late 2019.
Councillor Wynne.
I'm just seeing here on Facebook Live that somebody is saying that there already is a children's park in that area. I guess maybe on the other side from where this park is. Is there already something within walking distance from this area?
There's a
if
play.
so, sorry, go ahead, Mayor Martin, and then I'll follow up.
I was just going to say there is a play structure, but it's for younger children.
Okay, because I was just going to say if residents seem to be satisfied with the playground equipment that's already in the area, do we need to add the second play equipment then?
Mr. Brooks, do you wish to respond to that?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to add, as you mentioned there, the two playgrounds are targeted at different age groups. So this playground that's being proposed here for 2021 is targeted at older kids between 5 and 12 years old. So that's the difference between the two parks. And I would just like to add that the playground equipment has been purchased. So we've purchased the playground equipment. We're just looking for somewhere to install it.
What elements are in this playground equipment, Mr. Brooks, just so we can understand the difference?
They're more climbing facilities. I'd have to take dig up the drawings, but it's higher facilities and climbing facilities rather than small swing sets and small slides.
Is it similar to the one that we have down in Little Creek Park or different?
It's a little bit different, but.
Okay. Sparta and Little Creek both have very similar ones.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than those two, but those are aimed at older groups.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Just so if there is this second playground, where on the diagram in the agenda item is that second playground then? Is it in the same vicinity as the play pod?
So the first playground that was installed is built off of, I believe it's Owen Court. So it's a little bit further west and north of the Stormwater Management Fund.
Okay, thank you.
It's where we held our public meetings when we met with them to see what they wanted.
Mayor Martin,
yes.
I don't think anyone, if you went out there and took a look, the design, the quality, staff have done a great job. I think what we really need to address is the behavior of certain kids. And until we do that, no one's going to get full enjoyment out there. Because I think that is the #1 problem out there is the behavior of certain juveniles, whatever you want to call them. If we could solve that problem, then everyone can go on and get on and enjoy all the stuff. It's quality equipment, the layout, but those residents deserve better. You know, the attitude of some of the stuff they've gone through, some of the horror stories. And Councillor Fair, you've heard them. I think that is the big problem.
Councillor Fair, did you wish to speak?
Oh, I think Deputy Mayor Marks has said it exactly right. It's just the behavior of that bunch of delinquents, I'd say, that's caused all this problem. I mean, I found it irritating enough, actually, on a couple discussions with the mayor. I said maybe we should just bulldoze that skate park. I don't know if that's an option, but it just seems that that is what attracts this rebels.
Councillor Wynne and then Councillor Kovacs.
Thank you. Again, I just want to say that, first of all, if the play equipment has to go in, I do not think that equipment should be further away if younger kids are using it. I still believe if young children are on it, that equipment should be closer to where the houses are. That's the first thing. The second thing with that equipment, if it's already purchased and it's not wanting to be received here, maybe there's another area like Eastwood that we need to get some play equipment into. So whether that's an option or not. And just to quickly speak to the skate park problem, I just want to say that, like, I know the issues were really bad this year, and particularly for Turvey, who just received theirs. We've had ours in Belmont for, my children were young teenagers and they're in their 20s now, and had no issues with there. I mean, maybe the odd little thing, but in that time, there weren't issues until 2020. And this year, I could not believe what was happening at our skate park in Belmont after not seeing anything. So I do wonder if some of this behavior is because of what we're seeing or what we're all going through this year. So I might attribute it to some of that. Needless to say, it's not an excuse for it. And we do really need to solve that problem. Again, I'm unsure as to how we do that, but we can't have those things going on in our parks. And I understand residents' issue because of it. So maybe that's something that we should be really trying to address first, maybe before finishing the rest of the park. Just a suggestion.
Councillor Kovacs.
I was wondering if we could defer the decision on this equipment. I'm sure it's not taking up that much room at White Station if it's sitting there, until I'd like to have a better chance to look at the area myself personally. And there's other parks in the area that could probably benefit from this equipment as well. So I don't think we need to make a decision tonight. I was just wondering if we could defer this until a further meeting.
Mayor Martin, if I could.
Yes.
I'd certainly be in favor of that. I'd bet everyone a donut that the people over in Eastwood Park would be looking for one. The people out there, they've got wonderful facilities. I really think the problem with the children, that is a problem. You know, the trails, there's so much, as far as kicking a soccer ball around, they've got lots and lots of room out there to run. I was out there and guys are on the skateboard park and they had their skates on, rollerblading around. Like, I'll tell you, they got a lot better facilities than I ever had growing up, but we need to do the problem is the delinquent kids.
Councillor Fair, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I would agree with Councillor Kovacs on that. And I'm just wondering if there could be possibly an organized group, tell the people in the neighborhood to be out there when we tour that area too, so they could see and we'd really get an impression of what they're really looking for. And I don't just mean the couple houses that are affected directly, but I mean the total neighborhood input, because they all participate.
Councillor Kovacs.
Perhaps, is there something we could put on our Let's Talk Central Elgin site in regards to this to get more public feedback on this issue? Because there seems to be conflicting issues within that park and other parks. So I think we could perhaps ask the residents in some other way for a location for that equipment, or what changes are required. I think we need to do more research on this, and that's why I'd like to make a motion to defer this, please, at this point.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Brooks, any concerns with deferring?
No, I believe we have a little bit of time here. The playground equipment hasn't been delivered to White Station. It was scheduled to be installed in December, but we've held off. So we can probably hold off another couple months and delay this project until the spring.
What about the suggestion that Councillor Wynne made about Eastwood Park? I know it's coming up, but not this year, so.
Well, I guess the status of Eastwood Park is we have a grant application out for Eastwood Park, and we have a full design done for Eastwood Park that we had paid a consultant to do, as well as we engaged the public at a public open house for Eastwood Park as well. And I don't believe there is some playground equipment, and I'd have to check that this playground equipment, if that's what council wished to do, would fit in with the plans on Eastwood.
Mr. Perrin?
Having been involved in the design of Eastwood Park, the existing playground equipment in Eastwood Park is to remain. And some of the improvements are with respect to a swing set, but the majority of the playground equipment that's there now meets standard and is to remain in place.
So they do not, there would be no need for this equipment in that area?
No.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
based on the plan that's already been approved, but.
Thank you. So the motion moved by Councillor Kovacs and seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks that we will delay this. Mr. Brooks says we can delay it at least 2 months. So we can arrange a time for all of us to meet out there with some of the residents. Probably be wise to have all of council present. So Diane, would you like to read the motion?
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Kovacs, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that council approve the deferral of report ICS 0221 Turvey Park until a future meeting of council, and in brackets I've indicated spring 2021.
To call the vote?
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kovacs?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Thank you. Director of Financial Services, the request for tenders that we've received for the pedestrian crossings. It looked like great news, I thought, because it's under budget. So that was helpful. I didn't know Earth did those things, but I'm delighted that Earth has put in this bid. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Wynne.
I just want to say woo-hoo. Very exciting, and I can't wait to see it.
No other comments or questions? I will ask Diane to call the vote.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, the motion.
Yeah, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Wynne, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin accept the tender of Earth Holdings, Inc. for tender 2020-25 pedestrian crossings in the amount of $84,327.90 plus all applicable taxes as per report DFS 0121.
Call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kovacs?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. So we now have the monthly alarm report. I'm going to ask Diane to read the motion.
The Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Kravitz, that report FSO 121, monthly alarm activities report for December 2020 be received as information.
Does anyone have any questions for Chief McDonough? I think he's still there in the background. If not, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Okay, the Director of Asset Management and Development Services, the monthly building report. Would you read the motion?
Certainly, the motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Wynne, that report AMDS 0121 December 2020 monthly building report be received as information and filed.
Any questions? Call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Wynne,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Mayor Martin?
Yes, Councillor Kravitz.
Oh, I just wanted to say it's quite impressive the amount of building, new home builds within the year. We went up from 116 to 143 in that report. So that's very encouraging to see.
Yes, it is. And it's going up every year, it seems. Okay, the next one we'd like to discuss, have a little discussion about before we choose what motion. I'm assuming I asked Mrs. Wilson has prepared two motions for this. Mr. Perrin, do you want to speak to it first or before we discuss it?
The council has the report in front of them, as well as the request from Southold Township. There is a parcel of property north of Port Stanley on Union Road that a developer has put an option on. I would note that this property is not designated for residential purposes either in the Township of Southold's official plan or the County of Elgin's official plan. So it would require an official plan amendment. However, it's one of those situations where it's the chicken or the egg, which comes first. In order to possibly pursue the official plan amendment, they would like to know, being Southold, whether or not there would be any support from Central Elgin to extend sanitary services to this property. This property was not contemplated when the environmental assessment was done for the wastewater treatment plant. The lands that were contemplated for development were the ones that were designated in the municipality's official plan. So that includes Port Stanley in and around the harbor, any remaining designated residential lands within Port Stanley, as well as some of the lands in Sparta. The existing sanitary treatment plant is not of sufficient capacity to do all, Union. Yeah, sorry, that would be a long pipe.
That would be a long one.
Yeah, but the wastewater treatment plant does not have sufficient capacity to service all of Union. So whatever council of Central Elgin agrees to service in Southold, it's in effect taking capacity away from existing designated lands within Central Elgin. If council did elect to move forward and entertain servicing into Southold, then we would suggest that there probably should be at least a steering committee struck between both municipalities with members of council and the applicable staff to support that exercise, to discuss what the conditions for the extension would be. So if the municipality was in agreement to extending, then staff would suggest that agreement is between Central Elgin and Southold. And if we are going to have to reserve capacity for an area in Southold, then that capacity should be purchased up front and funded to the municipality, so that if we can't use it, then it should be purchased at the time.
Okay, questions and comments? Councillor Fair.
Yes, are you, I'm just wondering, I thought that the Port Stanley waste water was set up so that you could add more modules. So are you able to add more modules so that we would accommodate things and just have Southwold pay for the additional module? Or does that mean that we're at our limit?
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Fair. So that is correct. The wastewater treatment plant in Port Stanley was designed and constructed so that it could be added onto and expanded. I would suggest, however, it's not an incremental expansion. It's virtually doubling the capacity that's there now. So it's a matter of cost and front ending. So in order to double the capacity, you're virtually looking at approximately a $6 to $7 million price tag to do that. So while yes, it can be expanded, you wouldn't want to do that prematurely and have that investment in the ground and not being utilized. And that sooner or later, preferably a little bit later down the timeline, that expansion happens once further development happens. But in effect, whatever we give to someone else or sell to someone else, we'll say, staff aren't suggesting we give it, then that's taking capacity away from our development land.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
I'd be in favor of further examination. I don't think there's any harm in that. I think we need a whole lot more information to make decisions, but I can't see the harm in getting a committee and taking a good, long, hard look at it. Maybe be some benefit to both sides, but at this point, we're only guessing. So I'd be in favor of proceeding with caution.
Councillor Kovacs.
I was thinking something very similar. I think working with Southwold would be something that we could do. We would be in control of the sanitary system. And as Mr. Perrin had suggested, and what we have discussed earlier, is that if this development goes, it would be a force main from this area. And it's something that would be fully upfronted money too, is for the development. And that's something that we need to, if we're going to look at this at all, it has to be 100% upfronted rather than us supporting the cost of it. It's the only way that I'd consider this option, but I would be very favorable about working with Southwold. The change in the official plan will take some time for them to do as well. So I think there'd be no harm in setting up a steering committee to accept this proposal or look into it further. Thank you.
Councillor Fair and then Councillor Wynne.
I agree with Councillor Kovacs. I would further though say that any costs that we incur exploring this, I would think that should be footed by Southwold and funded by Southwold. I don't think we want to expend more funds, and also I don't know that we want to have our staff working on a lot of projects, for free on that. I think they would have to upfront the study funding and whatever costs are incurred in exploring this option.
Councillor Wynne.
I was just agreeing with the floor, so I would be in agreement with it.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes, basically the same thing. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. It's just the amount of time that the committee that would be struck for this, whether it's Mr. Perrin and Mr. Brooks and so on, their time is just as valuable to us as well. So I would just be very cautious in how much energy is expended into doing this, because if I recall something that I'd heard a while back, Southwold had been approached when we had built the original treatment plant to begin with. So there was an opportunity there, and it was turned down for whatever reason, which is fine. But we just have to kind of make sure that we manage ourselves. I have to though believe that similar circumstances exist in other municipalities where there is that proximity. So you do have to give a little bit here and there.
So it seems to be my understanding is you want to set up a committee to maybe explore with Southwold, even have one meeting to see, rather than saying we're definitely going ahead, but a committee that would just explore this to see if it's feasible and that they're willing to upfront the costs, et cetera. And obviously it isn't going to happen right away because of, as we said, the official plan amendments, et cetera. Mr. Perrin, would that be feasible to do that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that I would suggest is feasible. You know, in fairness, once they see kind of the philosophy of Central Elgin, that, you know, it's upfront cost, and, you know, approximately, you know, if they're looking at 225 to 250 lots times their development charge at $9,740, that's a $2 million price tag to more or less get in. That may be enough to deter or assist in Southold making a decision at that point.
Okay. So would someone, yes.
Madam Mayor, I just have one question. So we're talking here about the sewer, but do all of those properties up along that road have municipal water as well?
Yes.
They do. Okay, so that's not an issue.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kravitz?
Just as far as you, Mr. Perrin had mentioned the $2 million up fronting, the developer being a London developer, their development charges are quite higher than ours in this location. So possibly the developer would not be afraid of this. So I think we do need to get a committee together sooner than later, just so they can make their decision. But thank you.
Mrs. Wilson?
Madam Mayor, staff has prepared something draft. We're just looking for direction on the composition. We realize that whatever staff is needed would be on the steering committee, but how many members of council?
How many members of council would you want? I would caution you about putting 3 on separate from the mayor, because if I ended up sitting on it, then we'd have a majority of council. Councillor Wynn?
I think 2 would be perfect. It seems to work with the majority of our committee, so I would suggest 2 would be great.
Do some of you have a concern or a desire to be specifically on this committee? The next question. Councillor Fair, you'd like to be on the committee?
I would be willing to sit on this committee and participate in that as long as the Port Stanley representative is okay with that.
Councillor Rowe, do you wish to be on this committee?
I can if there are no other.
Well, I'm just asking. You don't have to be, but it was intimated because it's near Port Stanley that you might be.
Sure.
I was just going to nominate Councillor Rowe, so I nominate.
I'll remember that, Fiona.
Yeah, I know you will.
So Councillor Fair and Councillor Rowe, and then I would sit on as well as ex officio.
So then I believe the mover was Councillor Kravitz, or?
Mover was Councillor Kravitz. And seconder was?
I need a seconder.
Who is the seconder? Who would second Councillor Kravitz's motion to set up this committee?
Councillor Marks did, I believe.
I will, yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks, yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
All right, would you call the vote then?
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Kravitz, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that council establish a steering committee composed of the following members of council: Councillor Fair and Councillor Rowe, regarding the request received from the Township of Southold to extend sanitary sewers into Southold from Port Stanley to allow for the servicing of the Turbo Farm as per report AMDS 0221, and further that said steering committee report back to a future meeting of council.
Thank you. Would you call the vote?
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Thank you. Site Plan Control Committee on the landings, Block 65. What is there a motion?
Yes, Madam.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Kravitz, that Site Plan Control Committee report respecting Domus Developments London Inc., Block 65, 11M 421 Landings, Port Stanley, condominium townhouses be approved with noted conditions.
Any questions? If not, I would ask you to call the vote.
Counselor Cook?
Yes.
Counselor Cravitz?
Yes.
Counselor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Counselor Wynn?
Yes.
Counselor Rowe?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
The resolution carries.
thank you. We're now moving to bylaws. Are we okay with taking them all together before Diane reads that? Or is there any one that you want taken out? If not, go ahead and read the motion to take them together.
Madam Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Wynn, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that bylaws 2541, 2547, 2548, 2549, 2550, 2551, 2552, and 2553 be taken collectively.
Call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes,
Resolution carries. Next motion on the bylaws, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that bylaws 2541, 2547, 2548, 2549, 2550, 2551, 2552, and 2553 be read a first and a second time.
call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
That resolution carries.
thank you. Last motion.
Final motion on the bylaws, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that bylaws 2541, 2547, 2548, 2549, 2550, 2551, 2552, and 2553 be read a third time and finally passed.
Call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes,
That resolution carries.
thank you. We have some public notices just in the agenda, just so that it's to remind everyone that they can join the water wastewater rate study public meeting on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. They can live stream, they can join, they can, that's one they can actually ask questions. So, I mean, if they wish to participate, they can. Heritage Conservation District 1 is a week later on the 20th, and the development charges on the 25th in the morning. So those are just for information there.
Mayor Martin,
Yes, go ahead,
Excuse
Deputy Mayor Marks.
thank you. I was approached by two residents today, quite alarmed. They just found out about the historical, proposed historical area. They live or own houses in the area, complaining they weren't made aware of it. And, I told them it'd been advertised in the normal places, but, and actually one of them owned property and live out of town. The question they asked me to ask tonight is why they weren't notified in writing. Maybe they were, I don't know. I said I would ask the question. That's what I'm doing.
My understanding was that everyone within that district received a specific letter concerning that. Mrs. Wilson?
Yes, Madam Mayor, through you and to the rest of council. Notice was given. There was a notice plus the map was attached to the notice, and it was sent to the residents of the affected area. So I don't know, Deputy Mayor Marks, if you have the resident's name, we can check the listing, the address that it was sent to.
I can provide that maybe tomorrow.
Can you
what-
email that to me?
Yes, I will. What about if they live out of town? Because the one I know lives in Burlington or Waterdown or something. She contacted me.
As
But
long
they
as we have their address, I assume, for water and all that, so they would have received a notice, should have.
Okay.
Wherever your
I
tax
said I
bill
would ask. Happy with the answer. I said I'd ask.
We use
Thank you.
the tax roll.
We use the tax roll. So wherever, if they receive a tax bill, that's where it was sent to, the same address.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we have no resolutions, but under new business, the one thing I wanted to start with, I know some others have ideas, but I would like to ask Mr. Brooks to bring us up to date a bit on what things have been happening with the new garbage cart rollout. And I know he's been having quite a few meetings with different groups, et cetera, and there've been quite a few questions. So I just wondered if you could bring us a verbal update, Mr. Brooks.
Sure, Madam Mayor. So as you may know, staff have been working on getting the information out to the residents here. We've created a couple different flyers, and we've inserted those flyers in water bills. We've posted them on Facebook, the website. We've hand delivered the notices to rural residents, as well as those in Lyndhurst, Eastwood, and Lyndale. Canada Post will be putting flyers in all the mailboxes for Port Stanley, Belmont, Union, and Sparta here this week. And it has also been advertised in the Elmer Express as well as the St. Thomas Times Journal. So we're really doing everything that we possibly can to make sure everybody possible becomes aware of this new program. So staff have had a tremendous amount of emails here over the last couple of weeks. We're doing our best to get back to each resident. I've instructed staff to make sure they follow up with every email that comes in, just to let people know that we have received your email. We've marked you down for the cart that you've received. So we've got quite a bit of work here to catch up with that. Right now in our inbox, we have 480 unread emails. So there's quite a bit of work here over the next 3 weeks to get all those answered, as well as return phone calls and emails in regards to questions people have. So we have brought in a part-time worker to work in the office full-time to help us out with these emails and phone calls over the next few weeks, which will help. We've also have our communications person working on some additional materials that we'll post on the website, which will hopefully help address some of the common questions that we're getting coming in. I know the most common question that we're getting here is how the program is funded. And I've talked to a number of people here over the last week explaining to them the numbers and how the money is coming out of the general tax fund and will become a full user pay program. We've also been meeting with different condo boards. So prior to Christmas, it was decided that it was a preference of the municipality not to service multi-residential and condo units. After Christmas, I've taken some phone calls and I've met with quite a few of the condo boards here over the last week. And a lot of these condo developments weren't designed to house a garbage dumpster. And we really don't want to force these condo boards to place a garbage dumpster outside of someone's front door. So we have been meeting them with each individual condo board, finding ways that we can make the CART program work for everyone, including some of these condo areas that aren't able to house a dumpster. So I think we will be servicing some condo areas. One thing that we're asking some of these condo areas that have tight spaces that are difficult for the trucks to navigate is that they wheel certain residents within these condos may have to wheel their cart somewhere where it's accessible to the truck. So it will be a busy few weeks here over the next 3 weeks, but with all the information expected to land in the hands of everybody by the end of this week, hopefully in the next week and a half, the volume of calls and emails will start to slow down. We'll catch up and we'll be ready to go to make an order for the carts here in early February.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Marks.
Question to Mr. Brooks. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, previous years, the cost of garbage per household was approximately $150 For some reason, I think I've heard $151, $153 per household. Is that correct?
Actually, looking back at the numbers in the report I presented to council back in November, we had calculated the cost of the current program as it's operating now at 101 and change per household for garbage collection only.
Okay, so 101. Now, if I go with the 120 liter bin, my cost will be for the first year, I can't remember the numbers, but it's less than that, is it not? So it's actually a decrease. Is that correct?
So in year one, just to answer your question, you're paying, the user fee is applied from June 1st until December 31st. So you're paying a portion, I believe it's $90. So it is slightly higher in 2021 because the purchase price of the cart that the municipality is paying for that cart is built into the 2021 user fee. Beyond 2021 and into 2022, I believe, I don't have the flyer in front of me, but I believe the 120 liter cart is down to $78 per year. So it's significantly cheaper than what residents were paying through their taxes for the service before, should they choose the 120 liter cart. So
And that's good news.
Absolutely. And I think that's what the vast majority of people will go for. And on top, further to that, the 120 liter cart does provide more capacity for garbage than what our allotment of garbage tags did.
I have a question from some farmers. If they have a farm and they're not putting out garbage, in the past they would receive tags, probably didn't use them and threw them away. Now, if they are not putting garbage out at one of the farms, do they have to take the cart? Will they save the money or not? That was a question I was asked.
So I've talked to a number of farmers here, and what we're doing is if you have a residential unit on the farm, then you will be provided a cart, and you won't be able to opt out of the cart program. However, if you own a farm and then you have a farm field that you work on and it does not have a residence, we're not going to force you to accept a cart or pay a fee for that empty farm field that does not have a residence on it.
So in the past, they would have been provided with tags that they probably didn't use, but now that'll be a savings for them. Is that correct?
Well, they won't be, well, whether or not it's a savings, if they go with a 120 liter cart, then they are getting a savings over what the cost was prior.
Thank you.
I think too, the very fact that it's a user pay system, a lot of people have been complaining about that, but the important thing is they've been paying all along, but everybody has paid exactly the same amount, whether they produce very little garbage or a lot of garbage. And so this way, someone who produces little garbage will be paying far less than someone who produces a lot. And hopefully that will encourage a reduction in garbage. And Mr. Brooks, do you want to speak to the $5 a bag for a garbage bag? That's been a common question I've had.
Sure. And maybe first of all, I'll add on to what you had just spoken about in regards to the user fee. Yes. So the user fee, we're able to tailor the program towards what people's needs are. Further to that, each year we receive a grant in the amount of, I believe this year it's going to be in the neighborhood of $140,000 to promote waste reduction. And the only way to promote waste reduction with this CART program is to implement a user fee, which provides incentives for people to produce less garbage, pay a lesser fee, and have a lesser cart. So it's important that people know that's one of the main reasons that we are proposing this user fee is so we're still eligible for this grant, and we have an environmentally responsible program where we're trying to promote waste reduction. Now, in regards to the $5 bag tags, so with this program, really what we're trying to do is create efficiencies with the truck outfitted with a mechanical arm. And what we want to avoid is having that truck driver hop in and out of the vehicle at all times. So while we still want to provide some some options for those users that may have excess garbage from time to time. What we don't want is excess garbage or additional garbage bags placed beside the cart all the way through town, which will create further costs in order to pick those up and reduce efficiency with the trucks. And in turn, that all adds up to make the program more expensive.
Any other questions, Councillor Wynne?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. First, I want to say that I'm happy to hear that we are talking to the condo owners, because I think that was the one thing that didn't sit well with me with this whole program. So I do appreciate staff taking that initiative in dealing with the condo owners. Thank you. The other thing, we got hammered on this, like hammered. And I know so when I did have the opportunity to speak to people and explain more about the system, there was more of an understanding. And by the end of the conversation, I found really in the majority of my conversations that it was understood and they were happier about the program. So I kind of wonder if we do something along these lines again, maybe it shouldn't be us putting the messaging out, because when I read everything that we put out, of course it made sense to me because I've been involved with it from the beginning. But maybe for those who haven't been, maybe we should be looking at somebody other than us putting the messaging out, so that maybe certain things that we want to be understood are being portrayed better. And one of the things that I think really resonated with a lot of people that I spoke to is when I did explain that part of this system was for reducing our output, and the reasons behind that as well too, because that wasn't understood, that we're really pushing that we don't put out as much garbage because of the costs associated with it, and we don't want the next landfill to be in Central Elgin. And the other thing I think that was really misunderstood is people thought that they were paying through their taxes and the user fee as well too. And that was one thing that I had to explain with everybody, that for your solid waste removal, you were only paying through the user fee. Taxes weren't applicable to it. But so that's just something that I would think for the next time we roll out something of this size, is that before we do put the messaging out there, maybe we better be sure that all of us are on board with it, sure that the residents are understanding what we're doing. Thank you.
I think the one other thing that I had forgotten, and Colleen reminded me, we held 3 public meetings on this. One in Belmont Arena, one in Port Stanley Arena, and one at the Memorial Arena. And we had very low turnout to all of them. I remember one fellow telling me he wasn't in favor of it, period, at the time, but we did not have a lot of turnout for any of those public meetings. And a lot of people are saying, oh, you should have had a public meeting, but we did. We had 3 of them. Councillor Kovacs.
I just further to Deputy Mayor March's comment about the ability to opt out of the program. I have actually had 2 people that have asked me that same question. They said they have a dumpster on site and they don't put garbage out at the end of the road. Why are we forcing them to take a garbage bin if it's not going to be used? I don't know if we should be doing that, or if we should allow the people to opt out.
So maybe I'll start out here. The way we've been approaching this is all residential properties and businesses will be required, and farm properties with the residents on it will be required to take delivery of one of these carts. However, if your business produces more garbage than one cart can handle and you put a dumpster in place, we will forego your need for a cart. So that way, what we don't want is people to opt out of the program because they don't want to pay a user fee and then they're dumping trash in the parks or in waste bins throughout town. So if we're
that's fine, that makes sense. I'm glad you said that. Yes, that's the reasoning. Thank you.
One other thing that I would like to ask Jeff, and that is places like churches and community groups and stuff like that, at the moment, they don't pay taxes. So I'm assuming churches, et cetera, will be receiving carts, or can they request carts, or how do we go about ones like that that aren't residences and that are charities and are not on the tax roll?
So my approach, and I can receive further direction from council, is everybody is subject to the user fee, regardless of the association of that particular property. As we're no longer funding any solid waste or garbage collection through the general taxes.
Yep. I'm assuming they will receive a bill then, because they don't get a tax bill.
Correct.
Any other questions on this garbage? And that, I know we have some other items that at least Councillor Farrer has a couple that he wants to bring up. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Farrer. What items did you want to bring up under new business?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first item, I did go out on site on talking about the Hillcrest Street cul-de-sac. I looked at it. I spent quite a bit of time there. I was there for a while watching how the melt went and how things were plowed right after the last two snowfalls. I did send out a copy of pictures and drawing and diagram. I'm not an artist, so it was possibly a little bit rough, the sketching, but from my truck driving days and things, it makes so much sense to for the plows, instead of going around pushing it from the center out to the three spots and accumulating so much on their lawns that it's going across onto the laneway in one particular property. It makes sense to go plow around the circle once, and if you have to, then plow once more around, but that pushes the snow to the center. It frees up where they were covering up fire hydrants before. It also frees up towards the curb, which will allow better for when we do have our garbage bins there. Instead of having about a 4 or 5 foot section of snow out onto the road that impedes the flow of the melt water down to the catch basins. So it makes an awful lot of sense. And I know I've had some chats with Mr. Perrin about this, and he said that others haul the snow away at the cul-de-sacs, but even without hauling the snow away, there was a pile of snow in the middle, and I showed, you could see that it flowed right to the side of the road, went down towards the culvert. It wasn't a blanket of water across the road. The only way you could have a blanket of water across the road would be if the roads were level, and we do have crowns on our road, and if they were level, it wouldn't make any sense to even put catch basins in. So it serves the purpose of making it safe for vehicles to go around. It solves the problem of piling snow on private property because it had to be pushed up a long ways on the lawns. It also solves the problem of an exposed curb, because they had to dig back about 4 or 5 feet. So it allows plowing, it allows clearing, it allows snow in the middle, and I can't see a downside to doing that. I think the upside is much better, and so what I would like to do is see if Mr. Brooks could counsel or whoever has to do this to instruct them to start plowing around the cul-de-sacs, plowing it and leaving it in the middle. And I don't see any drainage melting problems or extra cumulative ice. In fact, it's less than it is now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Maybe I'll start here. I think the mayor's calling on me here. So this particular issue on Hillcrest was brought in front of council in 2014, where council was presented a couple different options on whether they wanted to have the snow plowed to the middle or plowed to the outside. And one of staff's biggest concerns here with plowing the snow to the middle is the freeze thaw that takes place. If you notice, Councillor Fair, in some of the pictures that you provided today, you'll notice that the cul-de-sac is bare and dry because all the snow is melting to the outside where it's been piled. Now, when you do pile it in the middle, what you'll find is you'll have freeze thaw cycles where the snow will melt during the day and freeze at night, and you'll have ice accumulation on the cul-de-sac, which opens the municipality up to liabilities, claims for trips and falls, those sorts of things. On top of that, if you have a cold winter and lots of snow, there's the potential to have the need to bring in a front end loader and remove some of the snow from those cul-de-sacs. And if council wishes, we could prepare another report.
I would, in regards to the snow, there was a pile put in the middle there so that you could see where it drained to. It drained straight towards the edge. It didn't go down the center of the road or anything. And if there was any danger posed, it would have been with the 4 or 5 feet of snow from the curb out towards the street. I stand by that. It makes the most sense, and it's the less labor rather than going, right now they plow straight in and then they turn with the plow. They're plowing at least 10 or 15 passes back and forth to push the snow away. That would take as much time as getting a loader in. And I'm not advocating getting a loader in. I'm saying allow the snow to be piled in the middle, and the drain, in those 2 pictures, you can see that the drainage was only about 2 to 3 feet wide, draining down towards the side of the road. The rest of the area was dry, as you said. There was a nice flow pathway towards the outside, towards the curb.
Okay, and I can tell you, I visited some of the cul-de-sacs around town that in St. Thomas that are plowed to the middle, and you do have ice accumulation as well. Really what we're drawing on is the 50+ years experience with our operations superintendents who are in charge of plowing the roads. And it's their suggestion to myself and council that we continue to push the snow to the outside of the cul-de-sacs. But like I said before, I'm certainly willing to bring forth another report if council wishes to reconsider.
I'm sorry, when my iPad fell, I muted us, so that's why you hadn't been able to hear me. I'm sorry. This was brought in 2014. There are families up in that Hillcrest area that have asked several times to have it switched back because it was plowed to the center for many years. Many of the ones in St. Thomas are still plowed to the center. So what are your thoughts? Do you want staff to bring a report back? What would you like? Deputy Mayor Marks.
I just remind everyone that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I think we got more urgent things, and staff are overworked, busy. Personally, I've seen a lot of kids climb piles of snow. If they're in the middle of a cul-de-sac, that means they're sliding down them. That means they're on the road in the middle of, I prefer them over to the middle. And if they lie to the south, it's going to melt and it's going to freeze. And I have to side with staff. They're out there night after night. We're not. And Councilor Fair, I appreciate your comments. I respect your comments, but I'm siding with staff. I really think, as someone said yesterday, it's 7 weeks or so when we're looking at 1st of April. So it's not that many days when this is going to be behind us, I hope. So I think though in the middle of a pandemic to ask staff come back for the report, I think we got bigger things on our mind right now.
Councillor Kravitz, you wish to speak, and then Councillor Fair again.
Oh, I was just actually going to agree. with Deputy Mayor Marks, unfortunately. I remember the report when we did ask for this back in 2014. There was a report and it explained the reasoning for the process on way the snowplow does operate and the snow plowing procedure that Central Elgin does have. I believe we do a wonderful job, and I'm gonna have to support staff the current way that the snow plowing is done this time too, unfortunately. Thank you.
Councillor Fair.
I just have to respond to say that by far the path of less resistance is to plow it to the middle. Much less time, it's much more efficient. It doesn't cover up fire hydrants. It doesn't cause any problem. And as far as kids climbing on the snow, they climb on it, whether it's on the side of the road or in the middle. This is not a high traffic area. It doesn't impede traffic. It's not a danger. I think the argument saying that it's dangerous, that ice flows all over, would be all over, is clearly the photos demonstrate that the ice does not flow or the water doesn't flow as a sheet across the whole road. It was very clear that by the pile of snow in the middle as it was melting, it was running down fine. And I would say 100% that we should go back to the way it was done years ago. And it's more efficient, it's safer, and the arguments that there's danger and liability, I think, are pretty weak.
The only thing I will say that often when they've had a hard time, depends on the snow, in getting it off. There are only 3 areas in that cul-de-sac where they can put snow. Most of the areas, the laneways are far too close. I know that. And I know that often the snow comes way out and covers the actual drain. So if it does melt, there's no way for it to drain away because the drains are along the outside edge. Is it the will of council then? Deputy Mayor Marks and Councillor Kravitz have both said they'd like to just leave it?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we don't leave it, that we make a decision.
What decision would you like to put in your motion then? That we change it to plowing back to the center again?
Yes, I would. My motion would be that we revert back to plowing to the center of the cul-de-sac, and which clears up the sides of the street right to the curbs. So I would make a motion that we move back to the way it used to be plowed. In my view, it's safer, more efficient, and meets good common sense standards.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Fair's motion? No seconder? It won't be, we can't do vote or anything then, Mr. Fair. We haven't been able to get a seconder.
Okay, thank you.
So at the moment it will stay as it was. You had one other item you wanted to bring up?
Yes, there's been a lot of discussion in regards. This is parking on Spring Street in Port Stanley, with the properties having supposedly extra parking areas down at the base of the cliff, which are not easily accessible. And in fact, Central Elgin does not even provide access or snow plowing or anything. It's a private road that they have to use to get to the back of it. Most other properties have front street access, which makes sense. And I know one particular individual has been pushing for more parking spots. He's lived there for 27 years. And there are a large number of other neighbors around the area that are asking for similar. And what I would like to do is have most houses have two vehicles. But if they could, in the current interim, issue 2 parking passes for this person until this is resolved. And I'd like to change the bylaw so that there is parking available. I know right now there's parking if you're handicapped, This individual is borderline on that with some heart problems. And I know some people have fallen down, and it just makes common sense for street parking to be available. I know Port Stanley is fragmented in many different areas with very awkward parking. This person has lived there for 27 years. I don't know how many more years he'll be able to live there because there are steps at the front. But I would like to have staff come back with a proposal to either issue 2 parking permits per household there, or do something to amend the bylaw. I know it's overnight, and he did send out a video to everyone showing that it's between a 5 and a 10 minute from the front of his place to drive down the street, around and through the back to that subdivision there to the beach and in. It's very awkward, and I think that we as Central Elgin owe these people the option of some sort of street parking. I know he has been offered to build a parking pad, and he did say that he would consider that. The only thing that he was against was that he would never be able to do any other proposals again if he did that. But I would say right now what I would like to see is permits, at least in the interim here, permits issued for parking, for 2 parking spaces for these properties on Spring Street, and then review the bylaw and make some accommodation that's reasonable to accommodate these people for parking space.
Answer questions from others. Councillor Kovacs.
I'm sure if we look throughout the municipality, there'd be hundreds of locations that don't have adequate parking for 1 or 2 vehicles. I don't know where we'd even begin to even fathom to look at a strategy to cherry pick 1 or 2 locations when the whole municipality, there's things faced throughout the municipality. I'm confused about this, and I think the gentleman should actually come and do a proposal before council himself so we can get the adjustment. I did not get a copy of that video that you're talking about. I received an email, but no video attached to it. So I'm not sure what video you're talking about. So I think this individual should perhaps, make a delegation to council and, present his case. It sounds like a one-off case for this one gentleman. I don't think we can just start blanketing and giving everybody 2 overnight parking passes. And the reason for those, it's for snow removal. These streets would be so congested if we gave certain streets, each house resident, 2 parking locations. So I don't know, I can't even fathom where to begin this. So I think the gentleman should be making a proposal himself on this.
Councillor Wynne.
I just want to say that I agree with Councillor Kovacs, not just within the municipality, but here in Port Stanley alone, where that issue lies. So I would agree. I did not get the video either. So that was the other thing I wanted to mention is I did not see that video at all. So if there's some way that I could get that, I would appreciate seeing it. Thank you.
I received it, but was unable to open it. Councillor Fair.
I would be willing to forward that video to everyone on council. And with Councillor Kovacs saying that he should do a delegation, I can agree with that. I would just wonder if we could give him a moratorium on parking tickets while we're dealing with this.
I am aware that he was offered 1 overnight parking pass, even though he didn't qualify for it, but he wouldn't take that. He insisted he had to have 2, so. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I've had numerous calls, emails, conversations about this topic. I do feel for the residents. Port Stanley is the way it is through no fault of our own. It has developed over time. There are dead-end streets. There are very narrow streets. As Mr. Kovacs, Councillor Kovacs was saying, it's very difficult to come up with something that's going to suit absolutely everybody. But my last conversation with the gentleman was to actually come to a council meeting as a delegate, suggest some changes to the bylaws that would be able to be implemented across the municipality, so that, you know, like I said, it comes from him, it comes from them. Yes, they've had the benefit of it for 27 years. Perhaps, you know, I think we did ourselves a disservice because we haven't been enforcing it as often and as consistently as it was meant to be. On the other hand, if you kind of look at that, there's 27 years of free parking in a way. So it really just depends which side of the argument you want to be on. I feel 100% for these people, but we have to be able to kind of manage it as a whole. So I have encouraged them to show as a delegation and to discuss what the contents of the bylaw should be as well.
Deputy Mayor Marks.
I spent 10 or 15 minutes over the Christmas holidays talking to a gentleman down on Belmont, or up in Belmont, and he got several parking tickets and was quite upset. And I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 other council members probably listen too. So if he's watching tonight and he finds out that we're giving a moratorium to someone in Port Stanley, I'll spend 20 minutes tomorrow talking to him. And to be honest, I can better use of my time, to be honest. And we got to be very careful of setting a precedent.
Yes.
I would agree. I think it has to be in accordance with the bylaw, and there's a reason for it, and that's for snow plowing in the winter. And we did agree to allow parking passes for certain people because they had nowhere to park on their property whatsoever. I can feel for this gentleman too, but I agree with Councillor Rowe and that he should come in as a delegation and make suggestions as to how to change the bylaw, because it should not be one specific area. It should be a universal bylaw as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Fair.
I guess one thing, it's sort of a bit of a link, but like I was saying, he's been there for 27 years, and I know Councillor Rose said that maybe he was lucky it wasn't enforced. We still have dogs on the beach, so we've got numerous bylaws that are not enforced. So, really, I don't see the problem with leaving it for a while.
Mr. Perrin or Mr. Brooks, anyone want to speak on this at all? Go ahead, Mr. Perrin.
So just a point of clarification then for staff, we're not the only ones that issue parking tickets. The OPP does as well. So is council directing us to contact the OPP and ask them not to enforce the overnight parking bylaw anywhere in Central Elgin?
No, because we have one person on Erie Street that is adamant that the no parking overnight needs to be enforced. We would certainly have
that.
A person
That's my point. That's my point. The bylaw is to provide consistency, and we are, as staff, we don't have the luxury of being able to deviate from what council said as the bylaw and as the policy. If you recall, up until 2019, there wasn't, or actually the beginning of 2020, there wasn't the ability for residents to even get a parking permit. They would have been ticketed regardless. So now that we have the ability of having a parking permit, council did not want to give it carte blanche that there's a permit issued whether you ask for it and pay for it or not. The first goal was to try to get cars off the street so that road maintenance operations could take place. That was what we heard as staff, and that's what was put in place with the policy and the bylaw that you currently have. So that's, we don't have any luxury. The policy is very clear. If they have the ability to park on their own property, which this resident does, and they have legal access along West Edith Cavell Boulevard, the private section, and they actually park there. They actually have a concrete parking pad that has a trailer with 2 watercraft on it, and over the winter, over the holiday season, there was car tracks on that parking pad that showed that they were parking there. So I guess that's what we're trying to understand from council. What is it that you want? Are we not enforcing the overnight parking bylaw anywhere, or are we just being selective?
I feel we have to treat everyone equally, and we have to enforce the bylaw everywhere. And I thought you were being generous in offering one parking pass when he didn't qualify, but
And just if I can address one thing, and Councillor Fair and I did speak to it, and I guess I wasn't maybe clear enough, but the concern that was raised was that by the landowner is that his initially in his emails is that the stairs that go down to West Edith Cavell Boulevard were not in good shape and needed significant repairs. So we looked at that and we thought we were being reasonable as staff because we have the ability to provide a grace period for someone to take and construct a driveway. That individual property does have a driveway. It has a parking area on their property that a car can access, has a legal right to access it. And the stairs are in a state of disrepair, is our understanding. So we were saying, we'll give you a year to rectify your issue with your stairs on your private property, and we will give you a parking pass for this winter season. That gives you a year to make those necessary repairs so you can safely access your car with the stairs that are on your private property. That was what was relayed to the individual. And then there's discussion about a parking pad, and that if the municipality would, if we could guarantee we would approve it, then they would investigate the parking pad. Staff don't have the ability to take and guarantee that. First of all, a parking pad is considered a structure under the zoning bylaw. It requires planning approvals, requires a minor variance at a minimum, and in all likelihood, it will come and touch the municipal property and beyond the municipal property. So it will require a licensing agreement for it to be on municipal property. I can tell you that we're pretty comfortable with that position because we're dealing with another property owner in Port Stanley on a different street that has taken the initiative to try to construct off-site parking. And we, as staff, planning staff, conservation authority staff, as well as myself and Mr. Brooks have met with that landowner and his consultants and told them what they would need to do. And they're in the process of doing those things. But they're also doing it under the guise that they know that they will require planning approvals for that type of structure.
Councillor Fair.
I guess then I would fall back to the position that we should, I'll probably talk to him, or you could instruct him as direction from council or Central Elgin to do a deputation or a presentation to council at the next or the following meeting, whenever he can set it up with his legal representative and proper setup. And I would like staff to be very clear with him what his options are as far as building a pad or clearly in writing put down exactly what obligations he has for, one, doing a pad, and two, getting a permit if he secures even a disability credit or a disability parking application.
Yes, Mr. Shipway.
To you, Madam Mayor. Just for confirmation, the subject property owner has been advised the method to move forward would be presenting to council about policy options to modify the bylaw. And secondly, just for clarification, I think if legal is involved or it becomes a legal matter, staff wouldn't recommend that be conducted through a delegation. There's different avenues for that to be conducted to respect confidentiality.
Right. Understand that, Councillor Fair?
Yes,
so
yes,
the legal route, we wouldn't have him as a delegation.
Yes, and he understands that too. I just thought he might have a representative, a consultant, legal, planning, whatever it is, but I will communicate to him, but I think that then we should move ahead and allow him to do a presentation to us outlining everything, but I wanted him to be very clear on the options that are available to him. And I do understand if it turns into a legal argument, then we have to stop and deal with it in a different manner. But at this point, I've been told that he's going to hold off until he sees what really very clearly his options are and pursue them.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any new business? Councillor Kovacs.
I'm tired of talking about COVID, but I'd like to give a shout out to our fire departments on what they've been doing with the first responders. I had an inquiry to Mr. McDonough in regards to the COVID vaccine for our first responders. And he did receive a letter back from the fire marshal saying that the first responders are going to be grouped in possibly before the end of March. They will be eligible, but it hasn't been 100% it hasn't been confirmed yet. But it is good news that the first responders are being recognized, because there's a lot of work that we don't see that our first responders with the masks, the Tyvek suits, and then when they get back to the hall, they have to wash down. There's a lot of stuff that we don't see behind the desk of council. So I'd just like to give a good shout out to our volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. And certainly the paramedics and the ambulance drivers have been asking for the same. All right, if there's no further new business, we'll have a motion to move into closed. If you would read the motion.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Wynne, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that council proceed into closed session at 9:40 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual.
Call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kovacs?
Go Leafs go, yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynne?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The motion carries.